Hi there, this is Pranay from DBS Diary. I hope you are doing great. So, in today's session, we are going to talk about deadlock on SQL Server, and we'll see how do we actually solve them. So, one thing which I have already talked about earlier, that when you have deadlock in your environment, that means you definitely have blocking, right? So, like solving deadlock will not only solve deadlock, rather it will solve your blocking also. And one index could help at multiple places because it goes like 80% problem is caused by 20% of the thing. So, if you really find out or pinpoint the exact issue, you can use multiple script or DMV to find out the issue in MS SQL, and then the unused index and missing index, right? These two are the one that you have to find out. So, I have two table in my lab, one is test and one is test underscore DL. Both of them are having 4 column. ID is identity column, integer value, then name, mobile and location. Okay, so let's fill this, populate the rows into this table. Okay, so I have put 2 sessions here, as you can see. Okay, so we'll insert 50 rows into each table. Okay, and values will remain same. So let's do that. So 50 rows are being inserted. Execution plan is enabled, that's why it's taking a little bit longer. Yeah, it's going on. Okay, it's completed now. So let's remove this one now. So I have prepared the lab wherein I have covered different scenarios, and then how do we reproduce the deadlock in the lab, and then how do we solve it, right? That's how we are going to see that right now. So let me start the thing. So scenario 1. So here I have write versus read. Okay, so I have put 2 sessions, session 1 and session 2. Both of them are for the same database lab. Let me show you. In lab I have got 2 tables. Okay, so tables you can see I have test and test underscore DL. So column, as I told you before, it's ID, integer value, and it is having primary key defined, which is clustered index. Okay, that's the best practice. So now let's go ahead and let's do this in the session 1. Okay, I have also enabled the execution plan so that you can see what is actually happening. Okay, so clustered index scan and then clustered index update. Now let us go ahead and do this update on test underscore test table. In the first session I have test underscore DL, in the second one I have test table. Okay, so I am updating everything here. You see there is no where clause, that means I am updating all the 50 rows whatever is there in my table. Okay, and here also what you will see is clustered index scan and then clustered index update. So now I have 2 sessions running in parallel. There is no relationship in between these two. One is having test and one is having test underscore DL. So now you know what is the meaning of deadlock. Deadlock is nothing but cyclic blocking, right? So first we'll produce the scenario of blocking, then we'll go for the deadlock. Okay, so now the next thing is session 1. So first query that we had was write operation. We are doing update. Okay, now we are doing read operation. Okay, I am not doing anything on the at the isolation level right now, or I'm not going to do anything on the isolation level right now in this session. Okay, so now we already have a blocking, or we already have a lock actually on the test table. We have taken all the rows, right? We are updating all the rows here. Now we are going to read from this table while the transaction is still open. So now it is blocked. So the if you want to see, you can go and run the command sp_lock and you can find out what all things are there, and you can find out based on SPID 63. Okay, so now things are blocked. SQL Server doesn't have any mechanism to clear the blocking. So blocking, it can remain forever unless you intervene or application stops running this. There are only these 2 ways, or server gets restarted. There is no other way blocking will be cleared. However, in case of deadlock, SQL Server will see there is cyclic blocking, so it will come and clear one of them, whichever is having easy to roll back. Right now, let's do the next select statement here. So now session 2. Now we are going to run the select query on test underscore DL. We already have a lock on test underscore DL, and in the same session we have taken we have tried to read data from test table. So now we already have lock and blocking. Now we will have deadlock. Any of that can be deadlocked. Okay, you see it is deadlocked. Okay, and this one went through. So now you see execution plan. So it is again doing clustered index scan. So that is where we had dependency. So first it was causing blocking, then it resulted into the deadlock, cyclic blocking. Okay. So now what we will do is we will roll it back. Okay, you can run rollback here as well, but it is not going to work because it's already deadlocked, right? So there is no open transaction. Now you can think of like how do we actually solve this? Okay, so if you see we are having, I mean, read and write, right? It can go hand in hand, but we have a scenario wherein the write, if it is row level, then we have to isolate that, right? Or if it is at the read level, then we have to see what the data it is reading from. Okay, it should not be exactly the same one. Even that thing we will cover in the next examples. Next few examples we will see. So how can we handle this? So see, if you notice here, I am updating for mobile number, and selection is actually based on name and location. So what if we create a copy of table or copy or data of table at a different place only with these two columns, then it will not go and read from the actual table, right? So that is what we are going to do. So the solution for that will be, so this is the solution. Let's create index on location and name column. So let's create these two indexes. This is done. Okay. Now let us reproduce the scenario that we saw earlier, how it was having blocking and deadlock, and how things will go now after the indexes. So it went through, this went through last time also, there was no problem. Now this is where we have to see, is it getting blocked or it's not getting blocked. So before that, let us see the execution plan now. Okay. So when we did that set mobile number, okay, so it has done index scan and then cluster index update. However, when we do this particular one, right, when we do select name, now what will happen is it will read our new index that we have created. Now, so there is no blocking. When there is no blocking, there is no deadlock. Straightforward, clear, right? So this is one way we can solve the deadlock. So you have to find out which column is having contention and which column is, so you should not create index on those columns which is very hot column or which keeps getting updated very frequently, like last update, date and time, right? This column you should not update. Then certain thing which doesn't get changed very frequently, those things you can put in the index. Now there is another thing that you should see based on selectivity. I mean, if you are putting an index, then that should be in the where clause also, right? So that is how we have solved first deadlock. Okay. Now what we will do is, next example we will take, and before that we will drop the index test dot this index. Okay, let me see if we have rolled it back or no. We should roll it back. Okay, and test underscore DL and then this index. Okay, so index is dropped. Now let us go and cover the next scenario. So it was write versus read. Now in the next scenario, what we are going to see is write versus write. So before we do that, what we are going to do is we are going to talk about one specific row, not about the all row. Here what we have seen is we did update without having any where clause, right? So for that, let's go ahead and do some update so that we will have distinct rows, because earlier when we did insert, it was all rows are having same value, right? So let's go ahead and do these updates. So here nothing much, what we are doing is for specific ID we are updating the name. Okay, so we are going to use that. So let's go ahead and take the scenario next one. So let's go and check the update for the first session. Okay, So, begin run and then update test underscore DL set mobile is equal to this number where name is equal to Pathak. In the update, now it will update only one because the name was all the names were exactly same value. Now, we have done the update. So, now it is going to update only one row. You can check one row affected, and execution plan you can see it is using clustered index. Okay. Now, let us go ahead and use session 2 and let us update the test underscore DL table. Test table, sorry, test DL is already updated. So, we will update that and then execution plan again it is using clustered index scan and clustered index update. So, clustered index scan means it is reading the complete table, that is how it is. Okay. Now, what we will do is, now we are going to run the next query. So, let us take this one. Now, we are going to perform the write operation again. So, before we did update on the test TL here and test on the other session. Now, we are going to perform update on the test table. This will be blocked because we already have locking on the test table in a different session. Okay. Now, if we perform the next update, but just mind you, this is not updating all the rows, it is updating only one row, because ABC that we have updated, it actually qualifies for only one row, not for all the rows. So, now we had blocking, now again there is cyclic blocking. So, we will have deadlock. Okay. You see one row affected, that is how it was. Okay. So, again now how can we solve this kind of deadlock? So, you see here we are updating based on name and again updating based on name, but names are not exactly same, it is different, right. So, you can think of how do we actually solve it. Okay. So, I have solution ready, let me show that to you. So, we will create index on the name column, right, as I mentioned before. So, this is actually we are trying to remove the dependency from the table, we are going to create a separate copy and that is how we are going to solve it. So, now let us go ahead and create the index. Okay, index is created. Let us go ahead and run the query. This one is successful, second one is also successful. Now, let us go ahead and run the update query and see is it blocking, it is not blocking. Now, you see what index it is using, it is using our index IDX underscore test underscore name, and other one since there is no blocking, there is no deadlock and it is running perfectly fine. Straightforward, simple, that is how we have to approach our environment, and we have to see which is the read operation, which is the write operation. Read can also create blocking, write will definitely create blocking. So, you have to just isolate it, not isolation level, but isolate the things and then you have to move forward. Let us do rollback now, let us move to the next scenario. So, let us drop the index now, test underscore DL. Okay, and okay. Now, we will go to the next scenario, and then here we talked about the previous one wherein we had all the rows, first scenario, second we had same row, right, and third we are going to cover like I talked in the very beginning, right. So, which rows are getting read. So, we will read one row in first session and in the next session we will read everything except that row. Okay, that is what is our session. So, let us see how that works. This is session 1. Okay. Now, session 2. So, we are updating test table and test DL table. Here the name is Pathak. So, actually it is hitting only one row, you can see here one row affected and one row affected. Now, what we are going to do is in the session 2 we are going to update the test table where name is anything but Pathak. That means, it will read everything other than that row which is locked, right. So, now let us see how it works. It is blocked. It is blocked. Okay. Now, in the similar way that we did here for the test table, now we will do for test underscore DL table. And as expected, this will also be blocked, but then eventually it will be cyclic blocking. So, there will be deadlock. Okay. You can see 49 rows affected. We have inserted 50 rows in the table. So, in the first update we had only one row, and in the second update we are reading everything but the row which is updated before. Okay. So, it is using clustered index update. So, again the concept will remain same. So, how do we actually isolate it? Okay. So, isolation we saw how it is working for one specific row, and now we are going to see in the first scenario where we had two columns, right. Okay. So, in second scenario we had only one column, and now third again we are having only one column. So, the one that we did before, that should work here as well. So, let us create index again on the name column. Okay. That should actually work. So, let us roll it back. There is, it is not required because it is already deadlocked. Index is created. Now, let us go ahead and run the query and see how it is working. Worked, one row affected, worked, one row affected. This will also work wherein 49 rows will be affected. It is affecting everything but the first row. So, now if you see the execution plan, it is using our index idx underscore test underscore name, and the next one, since there is no blocking, there is no deadlock, and it went through perfectly fine, right. That is how we handle this type of deadlock. Okay. Now, the next scenario wherein we are now we have a primary key on the clustered like primary key and clustered index on the ID column. So, what we saw until now, it was on different column, it was not on the ID column. Now, let us see how do we actually use the ID column, and then how does it get blocked. So, let us use and see that. So, we are updating mobile to a specific number where ID is equal to 29, which means it will update only one row, right, because ID is unique. And the next session we are going to update test underscore DL table, and it is again based on ID is equal to 27, that will update only one row. Okay. So, as a so far so good, there is no problem at all. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to perform the write operation on this table where name, based on the name and setting the location. Okay. So, how this will work? Now, the thing is, you should see the execution plan here, it is using clustered index update. Okay. And even the same goes for the other one as well. So, let us see how it works. So, let us perform the update statement. Okay. Run this one first, left first, it is run. Did we drop the index, the previous one? I think we did not drop it, that is why we just went through. Okay. No problem. Let us roll it back. And let us drop this test underscore name index. Yes, it was there, that is why it worked, test underscore DL. So, now you very much know what is the solution for this one, but then I just wanted to show you the different scenario how it works. Okay. So, now let us repeat the thing, begin turn update test underscore DL, and once you run this, it will be blocked, right. And when it is blocked, then again when you have dependency or cyclic blocking, this will be deadlocked, right. Any of them could be deadlocked. I have not set the priority of the process, right. So, that is how it works. So, to solve that, again this is dependent on the name column, right. So, we can use this index that we had used before, and that will work. So, I have already showed you like how it worked. So, we had the index, so it worked fine. So, I do not think we need to show that again. Okay. Now, what we will do is, there is one more scenario that we have to cover. Okay. So, in the previous one, right. So, we had this scenario wherein we have put the mobile number or set location where name is equal to Pathak. Okay. What if we do not have where clause? Let us see that. Okay. So, scenario 5. Okay, and this is again based on ID. So, this will go through, this will go through. Okay. Now, update set name is equal to Pathak, there is no where clause. So, basically we are updating everything now, right. Let us see how it goes. It is blocked. It is blocked again, and then you will have deadlock. Okay. So, this is cluster index seek, index scan, and then this one we cannot see because it has done the, it was part of deadlock. So, let us roll it back now. So, we have seen the deadlock. Now, how do we solve it, right? So, how do we solve it means we have seen the scenario, right. So, here since we are hitting everything, all the rows, that is why it is having your issue of blocking and deadlock. What if we put where ID is not equal to test TL table, right, test TL 27. So, 27, and we update here where ID is not equal to 29. So, we have the index already, you can see that the index we dropped. Okay, so sorry, then I should show you before that. Let me create the index then. Yeah. So, create the index first. Let us roll it back first. If there is anything, it is not there. Roll it back, nothing is there. Let us create the index. Okay. Now, let us run this one. First update query, second update query. Okay. And do not run the complete thing, rather only name, which means it will be updating everything. Okay. Index is there, index is very much there, but then it is still blocked, and then here once we do that, this will be causing deadlock even when the index is very much there. I have already showed you, right. You can see here, you can go and refresh it. We have the index on the test table, and even on test DL table we have the index. You can refresh and you can see we have the index, but then it will still not work because it is hitting that row also which is already locked by the previous process. Okay. So, how can we solve that? We can solve that by using the where clause with the condition wherein will not touch that row. Okay. So, if we do this one, it will go through, it will not have any problem. Did I run this or no? Let me, sorry, I think I missed that. Roll it back, let us see one more time, roll it back, nothing is there. So, let us do this update first. Okay. This update first, second I mean, then third this update, it went through, and then fourth update, this will also go through. Okay. So, only difference between the previous example and this example is we have taken the ID not equal 27 and ID not equal 29. So, this was the row that we have locked here. So, that is the good thing about SQL Server, about the row level locking, right. That is how it works. So, I have showed you multiple examples and things like how do we produce the deadlock, and then how do we actually solve that. So, please go through that and let me know in case of any question. So, you can run the command. So, just to show you one thing, you can find that out yourself. So, when we do this update, right, and when you do this one, so before that let me show you sp_lock. Okay. So, you can see what all things are there here, you can find that out. Okay. What all locking is there and the mode of locking. Okay. And one is done. Now let's create this one. Okay, now go back and run the SPLock one more time. So now we have 12 row. So you can figure out the object ID. So 08 and 03722. So one of that will be translating to test, and one of them will be translating to test underscore TL. You can find out more once you create this locking, right, or the blocking. Let's go ahead this way because it will be blocked, right? Now it is blocked. Now if you run the command sp underscore lock, you see what all things are there, and you can figure out based on sp id. You can see the object id, the key, resource, and the mode of the locking. So you can find out everything from here. So this will be blocked forever. You can even find out using sp underscore who to, that will also give you details. Okay, so you can see there will be blocking process 73. Okay, so that is how we actually work, and we see the problem and then we solve the problem. Okay, so either we can cancel it or we can roll back the previous one. Both of them will work. You can't roll back here because it's already running, so it will not give you control, right? Okay, so that was pretty much of the session about deadlock on MS SQL. Do let me know in case of any question, and I will be more than happy to help. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Bye.